thought I'd give this message from Ireland today. You like that? Don't I wish? So today's reading is from Psalm 1. And the title, which I think you all have maybe seen, is "The Wicked Be Damned." And truly, I have to come into agreement with the prophet. So I'm just going to do the reading. Psalm 1. Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers, but whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and who meditates on his law day and night. That person is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do prospers. Not so the wicked. They are like chaff that the wind blows away. Therefore the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For the Lord watches over the righteous, but the way of the wicked leads to destruction. So this isn't it. I just wanted to take that this, the liturgy for today kind of just plays right into this. So, I mean, almost we've had the liturgy and the Torah are totally in agreement. But if you notice in verses 1, it says that who does not walk, stand, or sit in the way of sinners. And I know that that is sort of the sort of a Judaic way of sort of encompassing the totality of our actions, whether we walk, we stand, or we sit. We are always to be walking, standing, and sitting in Torah, so to speak. But the wicked, so we know from, our Essene heritage in the Torah that there are two ways, and it was mentioned in the liturgy. There is, the ways of life and the way of death. And that ultimately souls, because Yahweh, who knows the beginning from the end, who knows where everyone's going to end up. Your book of life, your name's in the book of life, or your name is in the book of the damned. And so there are sons of light and there are sons of darkness. And in the middle of all this, there is a element of free will. But since Yahweh is outside of this whole construct and outside of time and everything, ultimately he knows. And he can speak authoritatively that this is indeed a fact. And we know that there are, one thing when I've learned, from, is that there are many levels of meaning to different words. And that, I subscribe to something called pards, that there is, there are literal meanings, there are allegorical meanings, there is definitely an application meaning, like from the Torah, how you would live that out. But in this concept of the wicked who be damned, there are two ways to walk. You can walk in the light or you can walk in darkness. But and you brought that story of the storm, Jackson, because it's really true. I mean, we have prophets tells us to tell the righteous, because there's two messages that come from our text. There's a message for the righteous and there's a message for the wicked, and they're not the same. And it's really pretty straightforward. It's really pretty simple. It's even a child can understand it. It doesn't take a lot of rocket science to ferret this out of the text, but you can tell the righteous it will be well with them. No matter what the chaos is, whether it's, weather chaos or circumstances in our lives, or literally the chaos of the day of the Lord, you can tell the righteous it will be well with them. All things will work together for good, and our soul will never be lost in the turmoil of concept. But it is not so for the wicked. It says, woe to the wicked. There is an end game, and I want to talk about the end game, so to speak, because I totally ascribe to the concept of cycle of 6 days. Here we are in this cycle of feasts. Number one, we are in these days of awe. This is a very specific, and when I wanted to, and from what I understand, that I do a lot of Kabbalistic readings, which gives really deep understandings of this thing. When I say cycle, and I'm telling you, there is a concept of Gilgal, which is things of cycle around. So we are literally, and you think of like what is it called? That corkscrew pasta. It's a corkscrew. cycle. We're in the very exact same part of that cycle, no matter what rung of the ladder we are or what year we're in. You know, if we were living 3,000 years ago or we're living now, we're in the same zone on that cycle up and down that rung of ladders. So Jacob's ladder, I'm trying to say, is sort of, you kind of look at it as a corkscrew, a cycle going up or going down. It's not necessarily linear, it's cyclical. But at the same time, it's going somewhere. So it's all very, but I don't want to get into that. But I did want to read from Enoch. So I want to just specify very quickly that all the prophets, Isaiah, Peter, Paul, Daniel, Enoch, Yeshua, whoever you go to, they're all in total agreement of this idea of the 6 days the man will labor and that there will be a 7th day of rest. And we know that's literally where we come in our week. You know, you work 6 days, you have a day of rest. Or whether we're talking about the aeon, the age that we are in, the age of a fallen Adamic situation here, and the whole rescue plan of salvation, so to speak, from Yahweh's point of view, encompasses, again, he uses 7 days. But just want to read from Enoch chapter 38, just a couple of other readings in text. Enoch, book of Enoch, chapter 38, the first parable, it says, when the congregation of the just shall appear, and the sinners are condemned because of their sins, and expelled from the face of the earth, and when the just one shall appear in the presence of the just who are chosen, whose deeds hang on the Lord of the spirits, and the light shall appear to the just and to the chosen who dwell on the earth. Where will be the habitation of the sinners? And where the resting places of those who have denied the Lord of the spirits? It were better had they not even been born. And when the secrets of the just shall be revealed, then the sinners will be judged, and the impious will be expelled from the presence of the just and the chosen. And from that time, those who hold the earth will not be powerful and exalted, and they will not be able to behold the face of the just. For the light of the Lord of the spirits is seen on the face of the holy and just and chosen. And the mighty kings will perish at that time, and will be given over into the hands of the just and the holy. And from that time on, no one can ask for mercy from the Lord of the spirits, for their lives have ended. And this is a summation and a theology that's followed up through all the prophets, where there is an end game. 6 days, and then we're in the zone. I don't care what, we're in the season. You know, everybody's trying to figure out the day and the hour, but whatever. We are in the season. And it says and this is a complete echo of the first chapter of Enoch. Enoch 1, it says, the words of the blessing of Enoch, wherewith he blessed the chosen and elect, or the elect and righteous, who will exist on the day of tribulation, when the wicked and impious will be removed. And I believe we are there. This is it. I mean, you know, we can preach grace, but at the same time, the pendulum has to swing. You have to tell the wicked, woe to the wicked. There is a day of damnation where mercy will end. There is going to be no more extension of grace and mercy. Boom, you are where, you know, it's like that game, you know, of musical chairs. When the music stops, that's it. So it is a very fearful it's meant to be a fearful message, in the sense of to give you awe that this is not a game. I just spent, you know, last night, my family's in town, some of my family, and I'm sure we all have this. 95% of my family does not want to have really anything to do with Yeshua and Torah on the level that the word calls for. I mean, in my opinion, most people say they're just like consumers of all the blessings of Yahweh. They want to just consume everything, but they don't want to, you know, quote unquote, play the game by the rules. So let me just go into June. I mean, I'm going to go 2 more places. So Enoch, we've read it in Psalms. It's here in Jude, because there is this day of the Lord. Now, I believe kind of like 70 different levels of meaning. There's a day, there's an hour, there's 1,000 years, there is a season. The word can encompass any type of theological angle that you want to look at it. But the point is, there is an end game. It's going to be quick, abrupt. That's it. The trumpet's going to sound, and that's it. Game over. And, you know, this gets really deep, and I don't mind studying controversial subjects to find out what's controversial about it, first of all, and what are the ways you can look at these verses? And this whole idea, we've been through this little bit of reincarnation. I mean, there is a deep concept. Do you get one shot at it, or is your soul given in the justice of Elohim? We know that we know that many sects of Judaism at the time Yeshua believed in this concept. So you can't just summarily dismiss it. But there's a lot of deep. One of the things in the liturgy, and I just said to me, there are mysteries of truth. There is some really deep stuff. But be that as it may, it's not deep to understand there's an end game. That doesn't take a lot of mental. So anyways, Judah reiterates, it says, under darkness for the judgment of the great day. That, again, he's in the context, some angels that have sinned. Because I wanted to say this point from Enoch. Again, what we have to understand, this thing is multidimensional. It involves many quote-unquote species or genuses of living beings, not just the human Adamic man. There are many, I don't care what word you use, extraterrestrial races of who will come under judgment also. And there were angels that were put aside, put in a holding tank, whatever, a prison, whatever you want to say, reserved for this quote unquote this day of judgment. And he says that there is a day of judgment of the great day. Look, the Lord comes with thousands of his holy ones to execute judgment on all and to convict them of all their ungodly acts that they have done in an ungodly way, and of all the harsh things ungodly sinners have said against him. Those people are discontent grumblers, walking according to their desires. Their mouths utter arrogant words, flattering people for their own advantage. This is echoed again in 2 Peter, a very familiar verse, just to go over it. It says, but the day of the Lord will come like a thief. The heavens will disappear with a roar, the elements will be destroyed by fire, and the earth and everything in it will be laid bare. Since everything will be destroyed in this way, what kind of people ought you to be? You ought to live holy and godly lives as you look forward to the day of Elohim and speed its coming. And I know a lot of this language. That day will bring about the destruction of the heavens by fire, and the elements will melt in the heat. And this is my thing, is that we have, and I'm not even going to go into this, there isn't time to do a disposition on this, but we don't really understand what fire meant with the ancients, in my opinion, the patriarchs, when they use this word. There is a day of judgment, and the earth will be destroyed by fire, but it's not like there's going to be a big forest fire. How do I say that? Fire is the emotional impact of this. Let me just say this in a quick nutshell. The emotional, because fire represents the emotions. It represents the passions. You've always said, like we're all, the passions can get very heated up, the origins of the fiery passions. Because when this end game comes, the emotional fallout, there's going to be nothing will ever be like it, or has been, or will be. When the end game happens and people realize that their name, it's done, book of life or book of the damned, that's it. And the whole emotional baggage of what you have to deal with, the coulda, shoulda, woulda, if you find out that you didn't make the cut. I mean, I'll tell you, that puts the fear of Elohim in me every time. I'm like, oh my, can you imagine? Just imagine that for a second, that it's so true. It really has happened, and now you are cut off. It's sobering. I don't care what I mean. To me, it is sobering. So what I want to go and just say quickly here, and that's why it says that in that day, Matthew says, but the sons of the kingdom will be cast into outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth, which is instead of saying the emotional anxiety of knowing this, that this is it, is nothing. You think physical pain is difficult to deal with. Well, I'll tell you what, the emotional pain, the fire of understanding is going to go through your being, your soul, when you realize that your soul is not destined for the book of life, for the world to come. Now let me go into this concept. There's something that I have to really, in my opinion, it says that there's another verse that says, many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, didn't we cast out demons in your name and do all this kind of stuff? And he says, and he will say, away from me, I never knew you. And there's this whole concept, it's so funny, or theological dialogue you can have, are we saved by works or by faith? What's up with this? But I want to tell you today that it takes a lot of work. So don't ever tell you that you are not saved by works. You totally are saved by works, because in a Hebraic point of view, what they're using of the word works, it takes a lot of work to keep your soul pure, especially here at the end of the age where we live in such a godless time. And it's just, people are falling left and right all over the place. There's no standard anymore that, to find true holiness. But what I want to say is, your work, what that means is, yes, I'm not saying there's a literal level of work, like on Shabbat, you're not supposed to quote unquote do your weekly work, you're supposed to take a break. That's not the way the word is being used here. The word means, in the sense, to keep your heart pure, blameless, unspotted from the world, not worshiping idols and these things, takes a lot of work, because number one, we have the evil inclination in all of us. And I'll tell you what, like Paul said, wretched man that I am, the things that I shouldn't do, I do. And the things that I should do, it's so hard for me to do. It's hard to be righteous. And you have to work at it. And you have to choose it. So it's why he says, choose you this day. Everything is a choice. But faith also demands works. If you believe, like I just said, that there is an end game, and you're going to be weeping and either gnashing your teeth either because you didn't take it seriously, and you thought you could slough off, and you thought you could, and I know that a lot of people have a time with the weak Christian doctrine today, we're just saved by faith and grace, grace, grace. But they have really left off a whole piece of this puzzle. But the thing is if you have that fear of Elohim, that understanding that it is a serious business, that this whole life, where is your soul? That's our soul. We know our body just goes back to the elements. It will be, and we know that the resurrection. But what I want to say here is, Paul was so clear, and this is on my point, a lot of this understanding that it does take, and this is like doing the whole mitzvah of Torah. If you were a Jew today, they would be telling you, it's not like you're doing, because I know people understand it's good to do a mitzvah, because if that helps you, it's like having a, sometimes people say take a prayer aid. How do I say this? If it helps you to do a mitzvah in order to stay pure or to stay holy, then do it. What's the big deal? If you just want to keep the concept of, and this was Paul, this was, in my opinion, the whole dichotomy of what was going on is they were trying to understand, this huge shift that had happened. You can almost say in dispensations between, well, I won't even go into that. But what I want to say is there is two ways to look at the law. There is the letter of the law and there is the spirit of law. We know this. But what is theologically behind this? And in my opinion is, yes, the Torah of Moshe, given to all 12, but really only kept today alive by the house of Judah. The Torah of Moshe, with its mitzvah, will keep you in the zone. If you are a holy, diligent, observant, nothing wrong with that. But if you are, even if you, and this is the whole point where it was kicked up a notch, so that even if you do not come under the house of Judah's Torah of Moshe, because you are a mixed multitude or a Gentile, or these 2 days, because I hope you guys, in Hebraic understanding of the 6 days, they divided into 2, 2, and 2. 2,000 years of chaos, 2,000 years of the law, and these are the 2 days, the 2,000 years since Yeshua, of Messiah, of Mashiach, of walking through the nations, calling out those who want to live according to the Spirit, this high level of works, of Torah observance, and what's the difference? As Paul goes on in all of his letters, he's not teaching the law, because what does the law teach us? We are not to be unclean. We're morally unclean and sexually pure of any kind of this stuff. We're not to be lascivious. We're not to have idolatry. We're not to practice sorcery. We're not to have hatred or hostility. We're not to be be a strifeful person, full of contentious spirit. We're not to be jealous. We're not to be wrathful. We're not to cause factions or divisions, or we're not to be just party people, eat, drink, and be merry. We're not to envyings, drunkenness, revilings, and such. I mean, what more do you want? What category of Torah did Paul not uphold and is not available and plain before the eyes of anyone who honestly just looks at the Torah? And in order to live this way, especially in today's present evil world, it takes a lot of work. But he didn't leave us. This is where grace does come in. And this is where the concept of intention, there's a third component to this, because he knows that we have weak flesh. This is where understanding, again, the tree of life, because in the Psalm, if in going to verse 3, it says, that person who meditates on the law of the Lord, and in that meditate is in obedience to it, that person is like a tree planted by streams of living water. This really is a concept, obviously, of the tree of life and the emanations, the 7 spirits of Yah that come down on us, that he will help us. You need grace, you need mercy, you need whatever you need, he is there. And these forces, these emanations, these graces, charismatas, whatever you want to call them, will come to us if our intention is to do the right thing. If you need help forgiving someone, if you need help getting rid of a willful besetting sin, if you need help getting rid of an addiction, if you need help just having faith, he is there. This is why intention, I don't know what I was going to say, 9/10 the law. I don't know where that came from. But anyways, this is a very important concept. Not that you have to be perfect. That word perfect doesn't really mean perfect. It means mature. So it means, you do get a grip. That's why John says, those who you cannot have any more willful sin. You really have to get to the point of this holiness thing. And your book of life is you really have gotten a handle on willful, deliberate sin that you have the ability to stop yourself on, because you do know you are mature. You're not a child. You have to have a certain level of self-control. So this contrast of the works of the flesh and the works of the spirit, this is it. It's in our nature. We have an evil inclination. We have a nephesh spirit in us that is the carnal man that got the upper hand, got flipped around. And in order to be Torah observant and rational and do what is right and good and just and holy and pure and think on things that are of good report, that takes a lot of work. But that's the season we're in. We're supposed to be taking stock. Days of awe, he will help us. Look at your life. See where you got some areas still to work on. He is so merciful and kind and just, and to the righteous, yes, it will be well with us. But we cannot delude ourselves. And this is a very serious time in the sense that there is an end game. And I'm all over it. Let the wicked be damned. I mean, whatever. They got free will just like I've got. I don't know why they can't. I don't have to judge them, but I don't know why people can't love Yahweh more in today. I mean, look at everything he gave us. I look at nature and look at it. I mean, how can you not love the Creator? So I don't get it, but that's not my place. But we can and we will be able to stand with confidence on this day of judgment if we keep at it, keep working out our salvation. So just 1 Peter says, since you call on a Father who judges each one's work impartially, live your lives in reverent fear during your temporary stay on earth. Philippians 2:12 says, therefore, my beloved, just as you have always obeyed, not only in my presence, but now even more in my absence, this is Paul speaking, continue to work out your salvation with fear and trembling. For it is Elohim who works in you, giving you the desire and the power to do what pleases him. We can call upon these charismatas to help us. And Hebrews, Daniel says the same thing. He says, many will be purified, made spotless and refined, but the wicked will continue to act wickedly. None of the wicked will understand, but the wise will understand. So in Revelation, let the unrighteous continue to be unrighteous and the vile continue to be vile. Let the righteous continue to practice righteousness and the holy continue to be holy. So on that note, I'll say, brothers and sisters, we can do this. We can run the race. I think it's almost up. And I, for one, do want to see the wicked damned and rooted out so we can go into a peaceful kingdom. Shabbat. Shalom.